Hello students, welcome to another lesson about endgames, the most boring part about your chess training, but also one of the most important ones if you want to make it to the next level. In this lesson specifically, we're going to talk about the concept of the royal diagonal and how to use it to win your endgames. Believe it or not guys, this is extremely simple. You're going to see how we only have to go over two positions for you to fully understand it and be able to use it in your games. And if you want guys, you can ask any advanced player that you know. If they know about the concept of the royal diagonal, you could show them one of these positions to see if they can find the right continuation, and you'll be as surprised as I am that many people simply have never heard of this. So let's get to it. Before we start guys, there's one thing that I wanted to highlight. Just like I'm putting all of these lessons in order from the very beginning up to this point, I'm doing the same thing for the endgame lessons. Like if you haven't noticed, every 10 lessons or so, I'm trying to cover openings, middle games, end games. And if you go here to my channel and you go to videos, you're going to see all of the videos that I have uploaded. But if you go to playlists, I have put them in playlists in case you just want to focus on in one area. Like this one is going to be chess endgames. So if you go to it, guys, you're going to see all of the lessons that we have had on endgames, number 23, 29. And this is extremely important because trust me, if you go through this material, you're going to have already a very good foundation when it comes to endgames. Now, for this lesson specifically, guys, I really need you to understand the concept of king and pawn versus king with opposition and everything else. But even more importantly, this concept of king versus king and the rook's pawn. So we're going to talk about the rook's pawn today. So I hope that you had the time to go over this lesson already. If not, you can always go to it. If you cannot go over all of these lessons, at least try to go through the titles to see if you're familiar with these concepts. We even have covered rook and pawn endgames. We have talked about triangulation, distant opposition. So take the time to do this if you haven't. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention here is that if you go to this other tab, which is community, you're going to see guys that I'm constantly putting tactics here from my games or anything that I think could help you. I'm putting a lot of information. So feel free to, from time to time, check community and also take a look at the playlist. So with that said, let's go back here and let's talk about the concept of the royal diagonal. Now, before we get started with these positions, let me actually remove everything and just put the king here. Because guys, this is going to show you exactly what the concept is. Now, you're gonna see it later applied in those two positions, but look at what it is. And I need you to do this with me. I need you to answer the question that I'm going to ask you in your head, but answer it instantly. What is your first reaction? So this is my question to you. Do you think it is faster to get this king from e2 to e6 if you go straight up or if you go diagonally? Well, if you instantly thought of this being the right answer, going straight up, you have to think twice. Because if you go straight up, guys, that's going to take you 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you go diagonally, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the same amount of moves to get to the same place. Now, how is this so important? Well, the main thing that I want you to get from this lesson is that whenever you're playing your endgames, king and pawn's endgames, that you think of this idea. Okay, maybe I don't have to go straight up. You're going to remember that you could also find a royal diagonal to get to the same place in the same amount of moves. Now, what this allows you to do, guys, is to do two things with your king. So you could be, of course, getting to that objective, and simultaneously you could be doing something else, such as keeping the other king away. So again, the only thing that I want you to think next time that you play one of these endgames is, okay, I want my king to get to a specific square. I know I could go straight up, but I could get to the same square with the same amount of moves if I go using a royal diagonal. So let me just consider it, just to see if that makes any difference. So with that said, now that you understand more or less this concept, let me take you to the positions that I wanted to show you. Okay guys, so this is the first position, and here the big problem is that it is the white pieces to move, but the black pieces have their pawn 2 squares away, and this king is simply more active. So the king could just come over, take the pawn, and then they promote. Now, the only hope for the white pieces, guys, is to be able to get their king to c2 or c1 by the time the black king takes on a2. So if you were the black pieces to move, it is the white pieces to move here, but if you were the black pieces to move, and they did something like this, right? And we're just chasing them. They said the king goes to e6, d3, d5. So maybe they go here to c3, king e4. So finally, by the time they take on a2, we learned, guys, on lesson number 30 that this is a rook's pawn, and this is going to be a draw. When the pawn is a rook's pawn, all we need to do is get to the promotion square, or we also have this resource where we put this king in stalemate. So we're not letting it out over here, and if they just push the pawn, this is going to be stalemate. So this is the resource that the white pieces have, but in this case, it is the white pieces to move, and I didn't want to ask you guys what you do in this position because I don't want you to get confused or anything like that. But if I had asked you, I'm pretty sure you have said that your move was going to be king f8. Now, if you do king f8 trying to just get to that pawn, you lose the game because the black pieces could do king f6, opposition. We also talked about this on lesson number 29. And then they're simply going to just go king e5, and you're not going to have the time to get to them. So something like this, they could just go king d5, and then by the time that the pawn is taken, this king just cannot get there on time. So we go king b1, and that's the end of it. So what is it that we have to do? Well, we know that we want to get to c2 or c1, and we want to find a royal diagonal. Maybe we can find a royal diagonal that gets us there at the same speed. Like, I know that ideally I'll go like this and I'll get there. That will take me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that's not an option right now because even if I go here, the king is not going to let me. So what if I could find a royal diagonal? Well, this is the square. What if I put my king on that diagonal? This might be my royal diagonal, and that's going to take me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. So basically what I need to do here is stay close to that diagonal. This is like a highway. If I get to it, I'm going to make it on time. So again, if I go king f8, I'm getting further from this diagonal. If I go king h8, then when the king moves, I'm already on that diagonal. Now, guys, I know this is already sounding very complicated, but you're going to see when I show you the next position, it is going to make even more sense. So let me go back. Again, initial position, most people, they're going to go with king f8 because it's getting it closer to the pawns. But you and I now understand the concept of the royal diagonal. So we're going to think, okay, I know that I could just do the regular stuff, or I could try to get there through a royal diagonal. So the move is, again, king h8, and then I'm going to get on the royal diagonal. Now, anything that the black pieces do, I'm just going to go to h7, and that's it. So I just keep going, and thanks to knowing this concept, I was able to get a draw instead of losing the game. So you see, I got to this square. Now I just need to keep that king in there, and that's going to be stalemate. Now, guys, this was just to reinforce the example or the idea that I showed you before. Now you're going to see it on a more ordinary kind of position. Okay, so here we go, and here it is the white pieces to move, and the first move the white pieces did, guys, was of course king to d4. They just want to get to that pawn, and then the black pieces went king f5, and at this moment I would like you guys to take your time and tell me what your next move would be. So think about it, or if you want even better, let's do what you've been doing so far. Just put in the comments of this video what is your next move going to be and the reasons why. This is going to help me a lot understand if you're getting this, where you are when it comes to endgames, and it's going to help me plan future lessons. So if you don't want to do it by putting it in the comments right now, then don't worry, at least think about it, and in a moment we're going to go over the right move. So here, guys, the biggest concern for the white pieces is that this pawn could go to a3, and even though we can take it, then our pawn is going to become a rook's pawn. So in that case, the black pieces simply have to get to a8, and that's going to be a draw. So I already know that I have to keep an eye out for this pawn, but I also have to keep an eye out for this king. I want to keep that king away. So I'm already thinking, in order for me to get to that pawn, it's going to take me 1, 2, 3 if I go straight to that pawn. Or what if I go to it diagonally? I could use the concept of the royal diagonal. I could do 1, 2, and 3. Same amount of moves, but this move is going to allow me to keep this guy away from the pawn. So now, if they did this move, if they do something like king e5, well, I got to the pawn on time. So I take, and now my king is ahead of the pawn. This is going to be very easy to win. If you went over lesson number 29, you should know how to win this. If we go back and let's say they did a3 now, well, I'm going to take, and when the king comes over to get to the promotion square, I'm able to keep them away, guys. Opposition, we talked about this. If they try to come over again, I keep them out with opposition. You don't have to do it right now, but this is going to work. If they come around, that's it, and the pawn gets there on time. So guys, this is the whole concept. If we had gone back and we had done it like king d4, king f5, if I had done king c4, they're going to do a3. The game is going to be a draw because now you just cannot keep them away. Even if you go like this, king c8, they're gonna get to b8 and control the promotion square. Or even if you go here, then we use the other resource that you saw before, king c7, and the king can never get out. So if they push the pawn, I'm just gonna be going up and down, and then if they get out, I finally access the promotion square. If they just go down, if they just go down, then you know how it ends. So that's going to be, guys, a draw. Okay, guys, so this is it. I'm not even going to give you more positions. I'm trying to keep it simple for you to not get confused. Again, the only thing that I want you to get from this lesson, at least the main thing, is that next time you're playing a king and pawns endgame, and it's time for you to bring your king to a specific square, be open to the possibility of using a royal diagonal. You could go straight up, or you could go diagonally, and maybe there are other benefits along the way by doing so. So like always, let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you think about this lesson. I'm already putting here on the side some of the main guidelines that you have to keep in mind when you play these endgames. Of course, there are more, but these are some of the main ones, including what we just covered today. So with that said, I will see you guys next time.